next guest, which is one. I don't know why everyone loves Fatuwani and Justice Mukheli so much. We posted that they were going to be part of the panel, and we had 11,000 likes. 11,000. I said, where are these people coming from? But I met Justice Mukheli at a job. I think there's a song that's going to bring them on. I met him at a job that I did a couple of, I think it was a year or two ago. And I met Fatuwani on another job that I did, both for financial institutions. These boys are all about the money. And I fell in love with just their spirits. I've never had a panel with men, or that gentlemen on the stage. But we have many men who support this platform. Many men who walk up to me and tell me that they listen to the conversations. Many men who say the conversations are empowering, although they know they're not supposed to be there. And Justice and Fatuwani are those men. Men who are deliberate about being better for themselves. Being better for themselves. I remember having a conversation with Fatuwani talking about how he went to therapy. I remember hearing that. I'm like, what? He said, yeah, I had to go to therapy because I realized this is how he talks. I realized like there are certain things that I was doing and I just didn't understand why I was doing them. So I needed to make sure that I understand what that was about. So please welcome Fatuwani and Justice. I'm ready with my mic. Thank you so much. So I loaded all of my conversations because I prepared for you guys. I'm not just winging this. I did not sleep. It's the makeup covering the bags. But I do want to honor these conversations, and I had loaded the conversations on my iPad, but I could see that this specific one wasn't showing up. So that's why I will use my laptop to navigate this conversation. Thank you. For being brave and bold and coming into a room full of women.
Thank you. I think it was easy to be brave and bold because, yeah, we've been uplifted by women all our lives.
Amen. So quickly, just as a disclaimer, and I'm going to read this because we wrote it so beautifully, and I worked with someone on all of these conversations, and I think it's so important for me to land it as we thought about it when we wrote it. I approached this conversation as a student who aims to foster understanding and empathy rather than enforce stereotypes or rigid ideas about masculinity. My mind is open, and I hope for the conversation to lead to deeper insights. I had to say that because everyone has interfaced with masculinity that was either positive or toxic. And everyone here carries ideologies that we're going to confront today through storytelling, and I want you to remain open. Ako hashtag men are trash.
And I think if anyone feels that way, we understand.
You see? So before we all start, I want us to hold space for this conversation and the revelations these conversations will show us. And that means creating emotionally safe and non-judgmental environment where our guests can express themselves authentically. Did that sound like a disclaimer? Okay, and to start with, I want you guys to describe what you believe a world that holds space for men looks like. What does that look like when we all exist? Not just the thing that you require. When we all exist, men and women, to hold space particularly for men.
I think it's a world where we all understand we are figuring life. You know, no one has figured it out right. And us as men to learn to be more kinder and sensitive to ourselves. And speak honestly, because there's a macho way of being. Me and my brother used to be like that, where I can't hug him or look him in the eye and tell him I love him. And we need to be much more kinder as men to ourselves, and then also for ladies to understand that there's a hard shell that we were brought up with that we are peeling off slowly, and we are learning to be softer and kind.
I heard the yours, yeah, already. Just like, we know what you're talking about, injustice. What does it look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I will echo Batwani's sentiment, because I definitely believe that collectively as human beings, we need to see each other and look at each other as human beings first.
Yeah.
You know, and our shortcomings that make us who we are, you know, how tough we've become, the contribution to how hard we are came from men and women.
Yeah.
You know, and the healing that we seek is a singular journey, you know, that, you know, I need to be better for myself first. But, you know, if we are empathetic, that these men, including myself, that are hurting the society, the contribution to our hurt was not only from men. And, yeah. Yeah, and I think, again, the most empowering place is not to do he said, she said, or point fingers. We are all in a journey to heal. We all want a better world for our children, for ourselves, and even those that are not present or aware that they need that, they do.
Yeah.
You know, so empathy is key, even in this conversation, that where I have arrived at in my thought and my journey to be better for myself and for you, you may not find it right. And that's okay, because, you know, the journey to healing has no destination.
Amen.
The destination is the journey. The fact that I'm trying.
Yeah.
You know,
that is
again, you know, men, we are celebrated for mediocrity and our small effort, but that effort means a lot in a world where men made no effort.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. You know, one of the things that I enjoyed when we had our chemistry call, which I do with every single person that I bring on stage, to better understand where they are, because I think for me it's important to make people comfortable and to also empathize with how far they're willing to go and how far they're not willing to go. What came up a lot is this idea of how what we see in society has been formulated by society. And society is not just men.
Yes.
Society is men and women. These men that you see were raised by women. You are raising boys.
Yeah.
I need you to take a moment as you explore this conversation to step out of your partner thought and think and step into your creator thought. You're creating a man.
Yeah.
Justice, there's a caption from you that says, over the past few years, I've been unpacking masculinity for myself. I started doing this because I realized that the way that I had been conditioned to be a man was not who I was.
Yeah.
And being that way was unsustainable and was only hurting me more.
Yeah.
Walking into your mind, I'd like to find out what you mean by this statement. Who was that man that you had become? What was the moment you realized that that isn't you?
Yeah, I think, I was partly brought up by my dad till I was 12. Then he left, as some of our fathers do. And I was there,
Some.
yeah, then maybe this might be the right word, an army of strong women stepped in. And it was a beautiful journey to be brought up by these wonderful women, including my mom and my aunts and just the community. But the time I spent with all the men in my society engraved in me an expectation of how I should be,
Yeah.
and I should be strong. And indoda ayikhali. I'm vendor, and it's even harder. That a vendor man is not weak. You need to be strong. You need to be all of this. And I grew up embracing that spirit that I need to be strong. I don't cry. I used to like fighting a lot. I was aggressive to please people that I don't think contributed in a meaningful way in my life.
Yeah.
Because when my dad left, they also left, most of them, the men. Then an army of amazing women raised me, also instilling the same ideology that I need to be strong. And I understand that I needed to be strong because life is tough. And yes, I became strong, blah, blah, blah. Then I started working and I experienced love for the first time.
Oh.
And my partner at that time, because I was a hard guy, I'm from the hood.
And your vendor.
Soweto.
Yeah, ngiyilokologo, mfumekazi. So anyway, my partner said, Justice, this tough guy that you are, I don't think you are that. Because when I'm with her, I'm soft. And she said, why don't you, I didn't hear that.
I did it also.
Yeah.
It just sounded like something that really hit someone hard.
Yeah, then she told me how soft I am and how beautiful my smile is, because I never smiled. I was like this. I was the bad twin.
Yeah.
I was the bad twin. They are twins.
Yeah. So then she embraced my soft parts. Then, as you move on. I moved on in that relationship, and I got into another one, and yeah, it was so beautiful. And my partner, who's my partner now, and she's an amazing teacher. And indirectly, she never says, do this, do this, do this, just her way of being made me want to be better for myself.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
Says marry her.
Yeah.
Was that a marry her?
Anyway, I'll get to the point. But so, then the journey with her in my life, and the journey just with myself, and being able to take the step back. We grow. I started working, making my own money, and all that stuff. Then I realized that everything that I am is not from me. Who am I without all these notions and all these expectations?
And all the noise.
The 10-year-old Justice, without my dad saying, "Ngwananga angasite zwabanna," or "Umtanam can't be gay."
Yeah.
Or you are hard, you are this. All like, who am I with that noise silenced? And I stepped back and I asked myself those questions. And my partner said to me, love, it's okay, go all the way. Even if you find something you don't want to see. Which, for every heterosexual man, our biggest fear is to be gay. Imagine. And I was like,
I can see you're still working through that.
yeah, no, for sure. It's the journey is never ending.
Yeah.
So she encouraged me and she said to me, go all the way. And I unpacked it for myself. And what would I look like? What would I be attracted to? Without all of this. Because again, in the hood, your value is in how many women you are with.
Yeah.
You know, what's my value without all of that?
Yeah.
You know, so I asked myself those questions, and I went into that journey through my art, you know, and it became very clear to me that as a heterosexual man, I need to contribute to the conversation of gender and sex and all of this from a place that is meaningful. Because I find that because the other, which may be trans, gay, and women, because you are sidelined, you know, it's easier for you guys to take on that conversation.
Yes.
But it's actually harder for heterosexual men to take on that conversation.
Because what's the reward?
Yes, and if I ask myself that question openly with my friends and my brothers, I remember I was working on a project like that with my art, and I spoke about what my work is about, and my friend said, Fana, justice. Wena ngathi.
I was one of them.
Yes.
If you date men, I wouldn't be surprised. But obviously, it's the toxicity in us where you
Yeah.
Yeah.
if my brother is being soft, why is it rubbing me off?
What's next?
Yeah.
What are you going to do next?
So that's why.
I want to actually bring the same question to you, Fatuani, because when we were in Cape Town for the job that we did together, one of the things that we spoke about in that conversation was your therapy and the
Yes.
reason you wanted to go to therapy, and how beautifully it intersects with this particular caption that Justice put out around this moment when you realize that you're becoming someone that you might actually not be.
Yeah.
And you made an example of how you particularly saw specific behavior in you
Yeah.
that you had seen in your father.
Yes.
And you had seen through your father where that ends up, and that was potentially the reason that you went to therapy. I want you to share that story if you're comfortable
sure.
to do so.
So obviously, our dad left us when we were about 12, and I was hurt as a child, and I said, I don't want to be like this guy. I love my mom because we spent a lot of time with my mom, baking and trying to make money to survive. And, you know, as you grow, you start working, we become the cool kids or whatever it was, Bram was happening. And then there was a point where I think we trended for a project we did called I See a Different You. And then the attention was ridiculous. You know, all types of girls were like, I was like, white girls like me, Indian girls like me, all of that, you know.
Every color.
And all kinds. And I think at that time I got too excited and enjoyed being a playboy. And I ran with it a little bit too longer than I should. and then I think every 5 or 10 years, there's a thing that happens with me where I have introspection. And I looked at Justice. He's been with his partner about 12 years.
Yeah.
And
Should I make the announcement? Please. Justice is getting married.
yeah.
Stop bothering Justice.
And so the biggest blessing to have a twin brother, we kind of mirror each other, and we are similar in many ways. We might not look really identical, but we have similarities. So in my playboy kind of era, I looked at Justice, and we were not communicating enough. There was still that old ways of being where I'm assuming his life is amazing. He's bought a house, I haven't bought a house. He paid off his car, I haven't paid off my car. I'm the Bram Lord or whatever. I'm the guy who walks in every party for free. I'm like, you know,
In the streets.
And then
In the streets.
I had that introspection with myself, and I looked at him, and I admired parts of him that grew from the relationship we got into. And I saw that, okay, this is what's missing with me. I may be good in my career, but I'm not thriving because I'm all over the place. I need to calm down. On Fridays, I must be at home, chilling, and maybe have dinner with him and his partner, but I must simplify my life and not be all over the place. Then I then started gym. We both love gymnastics and running, boxing, all those things. So I started doing that. Then I was centered. minimized the drinking and partying and the girls, obviously. And I went to therapy. And in the therapy, me and Justice had I think 5 years of not talking. There would always be someone in between us. We couldn't hang out together. I couldn't look at him. I was mad at him because he moved, he bought a house, and I was left in this other house. And we twins, the dream was we are together forever, you know. So I was heartbroken.
I was heartbroken.
And in the therapy, I realized that we don't communicate. And everything, life is a relationship. We are like married, you know, if we do things together. So it's like a marriage. If he says something that offends me, I must tell him so that I don't go back home and say, oh, Justice
This is what he
you know,
meant.
tell him. And same, if I do something and I feel like, oh, I overstepped, I must call him and say, hey, man, this thing, I think I wasn't aware. And then he'll say, nah, it's nothing. I didn't even see it that way. But therapy gave me power to reflect and to be much more vulnerable and talk about things that are tough. Because I think us as twins, our superpower is us together. It's the most amazing thing. And since we were kids, wherever we went together, people were like, who are those guys or whatever? And for the 5 years when I was solo running the streets, there wasn't that power. You know? And
That is no longer Fatuani's brand.
yeah.
That is the past.
Yeah. And in the therapy, the biggest thing, I realized that I was becoming like my dad. So my dad was in our life for so long and was an amazing guy for that 12 years. And out of the blue, he left. And I realized that the streets called him again.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I don't want the streets
Yeah.
to call me.
Yeah.
You know, and the streets will call you because you have habits. You start enjoying things to a point where they have power over you.
Yeah.
And I addressed this through therapy that I don't want to be like my dad. I want to be the men that are there. Relationships are not perfect, but I want to be, I don't have kids yet or married, or I'm not getting married anytime soon. But therapy painted a picture of myself that I had when I was 12, and then I reconnected myself to that. So I went back to the 12-year-old, you know, which is important.
I have to say, one of the things that was illuminating for me, even in our conversation that day, was how so much of the realities of how men struggle are so true to women.
Yeah.
When you think about, it was so powerful for me the first time I heard it, that you actually recognized that you were becoming your father.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times, and I'm gonna throw this in as something that we all need to think about. I've always said, even in speaking to my aunt, you will never escape your bloodline.
Yeah.
Genetically, it's science. The habits and the struggles of your bloodline, you will have to confront.
Yeah.
You will never be better than your bloodline.
Yeah.
I want you to take that in. Because if you do not understand that, it will overtake you and it will cripple you.
Yeah.
The important thing to know once you understand, where did we go wrong? Where do we go wrong? What's the repetition? What's the habit? What's the pattern? Then you go and figure out how to change it. That is the power of the self-development work that we do. That is the power of understanding ourselves better. That is the power of self-awareness. That is the power of living intentionally and saying, this is what I want for my life, or your bloodline will overtake you. I want to go back to this conversation. I want to go back to this conversation and speak through something that is a little bit controversial, but doesn't have to be controversial.
No, for sure.
And that is the idea of patriarchy. And every time we hear the word patriarchy, we often think of the negative sentiments of the patriarchal system. But you woke me up to something in the chemistry call around the benefits of patriarchy for women.
Yeah, I mean,
Because when I asked Justice something about patriarchy, I don't even know what my question was in the chemistry call.
Yeah.
He says to me, well, you know it does benefit women as well. And I said, okay, yeah. And he said, unless we are intentional as women and men to break down some of the notions that patriarchy perpetuates, we will not get rid of it.
yeah,
And one of those notions for me, okay, I'm not going to expose myself,
yeah,
but I want you to speak a little bit around
yeah.
how you interface personally with the idea of patriarchy as men who are going on this journey of better understanding just yourselves.
Yeah, I think for me, patriarchy, obviously, right now in our generation is something that we are tackling head on, and we have shone a light into its negatives, especially that affect the people around us negatively. But some of the things, as I told you, that we don't speak about in relation to patriarchy is how women benefit to it. I grew up in a patriarchal society that a man takes care of a woman the whole way. You know, still, it's something that I don't know how to dismantle.
Yeah.
I take care of my partner the whole way. I want to pay for a house. I want to pay, you know.
Niazbona. Niazbona. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make examples, you know. A patriarchal man, I want to pay for the house, and it's our house. It's not in my name. It's our house. She's on payroll. I want to buy a car. I want to, you know,
Niazibona. Niazibona.
you know, the whole way.
Yeah.
And that level of or that section of patriarchy is being celebrated, as you can see.
Of course.
And we are ululating and all that stuff. It's great. But then, you know, life sometimes can
Get
life, you know? And I can't keep up with my patriarchy. The good part of it. And imagine if I had to face my wife and I go to her and I say, love, I don't know how we're going to pay for the rent. Or I don't know how I'm going to keep up paying for your car. Or X, Y, the things that are masculine defining. I can't do them. Do you know what happens? I don't know if that's a safe enough space for me to go confide in her about that. Because she's going to very quickly say, window danger. You know, because I've threatened her comfort.
Yeah. You've threatened her security.
I threatened her security. We can't go to Gucci.
Nice jersey,
You know-
by the way.
Thank you. You know, and you know, we can't be selective around tackling patriarchy because the contribution of its negatives are not only from me as a man. The contributions are from the society.
Yeah.
Until we as a society are able to look at men in our society and men in our lives and empathize with where they are financially, because
And emotionally.
finance, yeah. I mean, I think for me the most sensitive place that emasculates man is where the money is.
Yeah.
You know, and if as a man, and you know this, I've got, I started with other people and an organization called the Holding Space Project for Men. So that where you are feeling vulnerable or unheard or scared, you can come say it to other men or other men identifying humans that, yes, I don't know how I'm going to make money next month. Because even me, with all the work that I have done and I'm doing, I don't know how I can go to my wife and say, yes, love.
Zakhala.
Zakhala.
Because it's going to threaten you know, that space. So yeah, anyway, those are parts of patriarchy that as a society we never look at from this point of view.
Yeah.
That it's comfortable and nice if a man is showing up where you need him, where he's, you know, that CLA is paid for, you know, and that
CLA.
yeah, that house and waterfall is paid for. You don't have to think about that. And he says your money is your money for you.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It feels great. But is it sustainable?
Yeah. That's the big question. Is it sustainable?
As a society, we need to dismantle those at that level and those expectations and stop celebrating that.
It was very interesting.
And I do too. I celebrate. I'm patriarchal. I've got that thing. I'm like, I mean, in umfazwam, everything. Yonke into. Why must she pay?
It's the tap of the foot.
You know, yeah, but
Got this.
is it right?
Yeah. And I think these are important questions to confront. We might not have the answers today, but these are important seeds for us to plant, to really think through when we put men in this position, which I don't know if we should or not. I'm inconclusive about what we should be doing when it comes to this. But it's important for us to ask ourselves, what is the loss? What are we losing along the way? And I think one of the things that we identified as we were in conversation was intimacy. Is one of the areas where we lose. When you have a partner who has the ability to take care of everything, but is unable to be intimate with you because the only way they interface with the relationship is in their ability to take care.
Okay. That's true.
Yeah. I've had that situation.
Yeah. But when you can speak.
Fatiwani can speak more to that situation.
So I think as men, we work harder when we have a partner. I love traveling and I love all the things that slay queens do. Because
I love how Justice is looking at Fatiwani saying, man, you just keep digging this hole.
For context.
For context.
But one is a self-proclaimed
Slay
slay
queen.
queen.
yeah, I was.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's talking about himself
he's a
as a
slay
slay queen.
Yeah.
So I call myself that even on my Instagram. I love the aesthetics, the holidays, and all of that. And when I was in my previous relationship, my ex was amazing with destinations and all of that. And I would work even harder because I have a goal. You know, there's a house we want to buy. Yes, I got that on check. And that holiday in Japan, Sri Lanka, all that stuff. And I work towards them and I get them because there's a motivating factor. And I love all of that stuff. But then what I realized was in all of those beautiful things, I couldn't show up intimately the way because the goalposts kept on shifting.
Yeah.
In Sri Lanka, I just want a photo next to these boats, and she'd be like, "You and your Instagram." And now I feel weird that Mara, I spent 200K to get
be
here.
here.
I just want a post. And then, because of the hard work, I'm thinking I'm a painter. I'm an artist. We're both artists, actually, and film directors. But at the time, I was just making art only. And I'm going, okay, I work hard. I'm selling these artworks. I'm good. I'm doing well financially. But I'm not, she's never impressed. And it affected my libido big times, where I couldn't, I just felt like I was not enough. All of the things look great, but then inside, I just didn't feel complete because now I bought a nice house, I've got a nice car, but this girl doesn't feel all the things I'm doing for her. And then it hits you as well. But it was my first time experiencing this thing. Then I don't want problems. I went to a doctor, I was like, hey, Tony boy. I went to a doctor, I was like,
please, let's fix
There's-
this.
yeah.
What's going on here?
there's men's clinic and all of that stuff, but I went to a urologist, and then I was hinting to Justice because I couldn't tell him properly. I was like, you must go get checked, Joe, because whatever, you know. And I went to a urologist, and the guy was doing all the tests and checking the pressure in my urine and all of that. And he's like, everything is good. And I'm with this person here. And he says, let's go to that room, and please stay here. I need to scan him by himself. And we went to that other room and he said to me, are you okay, bro? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Like, is everything okay at home? He's like, yeah.
We just came back from New York.
My partner is amazing. We came back from Sri Lanka, or whatever it is. He says, no. In most cases, you are completely healthy. In most cases is when your partner is psychologically breaking you, this thing happens. And at the time, I was like, but I've once had an accident. It's like, brother. Let me give you a homework. Just be real. Look at this whole thing and come back to me after a week. I won't give you any pills or whatever. Just go think about it. But 90% of cases like that, when men have that challenge, it's the partner. And mentally or psychologically you're not showing up, then Johnny Boy doesn't work, you know. And yeah, I then started therapy for that. I spoke to my therapist, and I think it took about 6 months to figure this thing out. And it got to a place where it was this person, because I was never enough for her. Even though I'm doing all these amazing trips, I'm not enough for this person. And I think this comes back to, let's be kinder, let's appreciate. Whether even men who are buying G63s for their partners, psychologically they are maybe broken. And because the stakes are too high, you know. And it's the simple things that create harmony and peace and love, not the materials. We love them. I love all this stuff, but I realized that it's only appreciation from my partner saying, hey, I love you, doing well. I love this thing. Wow, that's a nice painting. That's all I need, that affirmation. And love
That's
is
a clap
good.
from a man.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's many love languages. For partners, you must see what their love language is and what they respond to, give them that. And just me, if my partner says, oh, that's great, I love that drawing, I love your outfit, I'm done. I don't need a G63. I'm happy, you know. And maybe a holiday for others might be that and all of that, but it's the simplest things that will make life better for all of us.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to share these stories, because often we look at people's lives from the outside. The checklist that you did was because you saw someone's Instagram feed. And you said, that's the life that I want.
Yeah.
The reason it's so important for me that we hear these stories, whatever you do with it is up to you. The reason we need to hear these stories is because we need to listen to the truth of what life experiences are. I mean, one of the things I said to Fatuwani when I met him is, I've never met a person who loves luxury as much as Fatuwani, but is not defined by it.
Yeah.
Fatuwani loves looking good.
I do.
At whatever the cost.
Yes.
But it is not the cost that is defining him. And it was the first time I interfaced with that energy around luxury with someone who also then loves a beautiful life. When you go to his Instagram page, everything is beautiful, but none of it defines him. There's so many things that Fatwani spoke to that I wanted to highlight, but I'm going to move on because I've forgotten about some of them. And go to something that also came up when we were discussing this conversation, which is this idea of the pursuit of an ideal relationship based off what you saw when you were young. There's a show that was on Showmax. I always forget the name, but the husband kills someone. The wife goes to the dad and talks about how disappointed she is that the husband did this and also cheated on her because the dad never treated the mom like that. The dad turns around and says, "You have no idea what my relationship with your mom was like."
Yeah.
You have no idea what my relationship with your mom was like. Between this year, when you were this age and this age, I had an affair on your mom. We brought this up when we were talking about how men sometimes go into creating relationships based on what they saw people around them say relationships are. But we also all know that Dala, a lot of older people had a very intimate relationship behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And when they came out, they had to present a front.
Yeah.
We look at the front and we say that's what the relationship is.
Yeah.
But we never really experience the intimacy of the relationship.
Yeah.
When
I
you
think-
think about how you think about framing relationships earlier and now,
Yeah.
do you think there were effects like that in what you thought should be happening? And then what did you discover in the intimacy of your own relationships?
I think if I were to speak to that, I think our generation and social media shapes so much of what the idea of a relationship should be to the worst way. Because I find that social media relationships, and forgive me if you have one of those.
I'm not even gonna ask what that is. I was just thinking, what is that? But
No, I think we as a people spend a lot of time trying to make a relationship look a certain way for people rather than being in the relationship
itself.
for each other. You know, I read a beautiful quote that said, "My relationship is sacred, not a secret." You know, because I don't share my relationship on social media at all. And I get asked, "Are you married? Are you this? Are you this? Are you this?" And some people that know me maybe without my partner would say, "Why don't you post that? Why don't you do this?" Well, and I'm not saying this is right, but I find that it's more important to be present in your relationship rather than being present at what it should look like for other people, you know? So growing up looking at these types of relationships, luckily for me, what shaped my view of a relationship didn't have physical abuse. Some people grew up in homes where there was no love and there was physical abuse, and when you go out of that and your uncles and aunts, you are seeing and experiencing that, and it becomes normalized.
Yeah.
You know, then when you get into a relationship, your expectation is that, you know, for me to show my partner love, I need to put a hand on it.
Yeah.
Even more so, I dated someone when I was younger that she said, "I don't love her because I don't hit her." And that to me broke me because I thought, how can that be love? You know, but her view of what love should be was shaped by that. And I'm pretty sure there are people to date that their love language is shaped by things like that.
Yeah.
But I would like to encourage people to invest in a relationship that is present between the two of you rather than what it looks like or what you saw or what you think the right thing is. There's no right thing. The right thing is between two people.
Absolutely. Speaking of this idea of what we see and what the truth is, I'm going to bring it back to your relationship with your brother, which Fatuwani already mentioned was scarred for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting to hear that, especially as twins, who are often seen working together. You did your business together. You were everything we saw was the twins and how amazing they were.
Yeah,
But you both revealed that there was a time when what people saw was not the truth of your own intimacy. Fatuwani, I want you to take us through what got you out of that area, of that rut, where you were unable. You said to me, you know, we would see each other and we're like, show, Mfethu, right, sharp, and you'd be gone for 5 years as twins. What got you out of that space? Because I think you touched a little bit on how your heart was broken already.
Yeah, I think Justice has always been the guy who will make an effort, you know. We don't live together. He'd wake up and come to my house, even though we're not seeing eye to eye, and he'll sit on my couch and do whatever. I'll have him there, and it's awkward, you know. But I think, yeah.
I was able to do that because I love him involuntarily. So even even when we are not seeing eye to eye or I'm pissed off, I can't help myself.
Yeah.
I need to be in his presence.
Which I think it's the same, but he would come to my house every day, every morning, and I'm like, aye, man, just this. And then at some point, so his wife is our manager for our art and directing stuff, and we had this trip together, but already we had done the work to kind of fix it. And she said, no, I went to Venice for long. France for a residency. And when I was there, I was isolated and I felt so alone. And I was chatting with him and everyone, but I just felt so alone. And then I had a fear that I might not come back to my normal life, which is nice because I was living in a weird, in a village, you know. And his wife said, when he dropped me off, she said, guys, hug each other and tell each other you love each other because you won't see him for a month, bruh. And you guys are inseparable. You're always together. And we had already started doing the work, which was already good. And when I came back, normally I would just say, sure. And then we drop off. He drops me off or we chill. And his wife said, be more intentional. Look at him and tell him you miss him. Tell him about your travel. Tell him everything, how you felt. And I realized that for long we were hanging out, not present. We love each other, but we're not intentional. We're coasting. It's not like, hey, sure, Mfana, my rates and taxes are killing me, or whatever. And we talk about those things. And when she told us we need to do that, I was like, yeah, okay, it's tough. Like we're twins. I had to look at just to say, "Ish, don't know right now. Like, why does it feel weird to tell that I miss him?" It's that toxic masculinity as well, and not being present. And when we started doing that more, to go, let's have dinner at your place, and then we chill, we talk, just me and him, and then our partners are talking or we are together. We are more intentional. We're not just hanging out because we're always together in the studio 8 hours, but we're not really intentional. And now we are more intentional. When he picks me up, I was like, should I make you a coffee? I love your outfit. It's not coasting, it's being present.
Yeah, and to that point, sure. Yeah. To that point, I also had a very similar experience to Patwani when I started the Holding Space project. So the guys I work with, we brought facilitators that work with addicts and also with men. And we did an exercise that put me to my knees. And I'll tell you what that exercise was. They asked us to sit across each other. So you choose a man and you sit across a man with your knees touching. And yes. So imagine the toxic masculine justice that has homophobia. I'm work in progress. So I'm sitting in front of this man. We're touching, our knees are touching, and it's too close, man. You know? Then the exercise was look at him, look at his nose, look at his eyes, look at his eyebrows, his beard, his lips. If he smiles, look at his teeth, you know, look at his ears. And it was so uncomfortable. And I did that, and I looked, and imagine my face. Yes, what if I'm attracted to this guy? You know, so I look at this man, I look at him, and I look. After that, the exercises we did, my heart got so broken because I realized that I haven't even looked at my own brother that intimately in the name of I'm a man, you know. And, you know, that night when we finished that thing, I called my brother and I just had a random chat. And we don't call each other at night. Then in the morning I went to him. I didn't even tell him. And I was uncomfortably too close because I
Mom was like,
What's going on
there's
today?
no space, bro.
Kwenzakalani namhlanje?
I want to see what his scar looks like. I want to see his eyebrows. I want to see his lips. I haven't done that. We are 38. Imagine, and in the name of all of this weight I walk with as a man. So yeah, anyway.
You know, one of the things, when I first heard you tell me that story, of course, when we were speaking about the work that you do, Justice, one of the immediate things that came to my mind was, had your father ever looked at you that way?
Nope.
Had an older man ever looked at you that way?
No.
And I remember your answer distinctly being, he'd never looked at us that way, but not even our mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. If I visit my mom now, and nothing wrong, it's how it is.
And I know how much you guys love your mother.
Yeah.
So much.
And I know how much you're close to
Yeah.
her. But there's
adore
just that
her.
level of intimacy
Yeah.
that we sometimes don't access because we're not intentional about it.
Even kissing her, she would shrink to the smallest thing. So would I. Because it's a tough exchange that I never grew up with it. I never even saw my parents kiss or say they love each other. You know? So, let alone the world saying to me, I need to be a certain man.
Yeah.
You know?
I think one of the things that I absolutely wanted to explore in this conversation is intimacy with each other. Because what intimacy does, and intimacy is not, I like you, my friend.
Yeah.
It's really engaging with someone intentionally. When I first heard of this story, I remembered I told you guys a story of how I was raised, and I was raised in a Christian home, and before but you don't date, you just get married, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things, because I absolutely loved my grandmother, and anything she wanted from me, she was gonna get, I followed that rule. You know, boys must not be able to approach you. It mustn't be easy. A lot of girls were raised like that. Boys mustn't find it easy to talk to you. And I developed this exterior of don't talk to me unless you know what you're going to say to me. But it didn't end with the boys. It went to also my relationships with women, because it became, in a way, a part of my identity. Imagine coming into the business world where people do business with people they like. And how much I had to unpack and understand around how to change that. I remember one of the things, because I always go to books when I need solutions. I always go to books. I never think I have to enroll for a course. I think there's a book someone wrote about this thing. So I was lucky enough to find a book called The Power of Charm, because I wanted to learn how to let people in, particularly in business. And it was so insightful when I heard this exercise, because the book actually teaches you how to make people fall in love with you. And it specifically speaks about when you engage with someone, don't look them dead in the eyes because you're gonna scare them. You move your eyes around their face. And that's when someone feels like you're really engaged and involved with what they're saying. That is intimacy.
Yeah.
When you speak to someone, you look at their eyes, you look at their nose, you look at their mouth, and you look at their forehead. And that's how you break someone down. But that is also the reality psychologically with how we engage with each other when we go into intimate spaces. And I promise you, a lot of friendships, a lot of relationships, a lot of parent-child relationships have never accessed that level of intimacy. In closing, and I'm going to allow you to say what you want to say.
Just to add on that, as an artist and as a painter, we don't have salaries, you know, and I live through my art. And how I sell my art, my strategy is nyashela. It's like you're
courting your
flirting
client.
with a person.
Yeah.
But obviously it's business. We don't cross the line. But people, I realize that people buy my art because they like me. They don't buy it because it's
It's
an
the best
amazing
art they've
artwork.
ever seen.
They're like, what a nice guy, or whatever it is. And it's those strategies where you're cool. They walk in my studio, I love your shoes. Nice, mate. You smell good. What do you want to have? I can order wine quickly at Salvation Cafe, relax, chill. And then their gut goes down and they're like, okay, I'll spend 300K, whatever it is. And we are Sheila. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm not even gonna talk about what Fatuani gave me as an answer when I asked him what's the most expensive painting he's sold. I'm going to go to my final thoughts,
Sure,
my
sure.
final question to
Yeah.
both of you.
Yeah.
There's a quote that says, just in closing, the crisis facing men is not the crisis of masculinity. It is the crisis of patriarchal masculinity. Until we make the distinction clear, and this is for everyone in the room, there's a distinction. Until we make the distinction clear, men will continue to fear that any critique of patriarchy represents a threat to their masculinity.
No, for sure. For sure. No, I
I
agree.
need to know in closing how you interface with that ideology.
I think for me, because obviously how we are brought up in society and everything about our lives entangled, like affects our ego, you know. If as a man, a woman speaks down on me, you know, or anything that challenges maybe my pocket or anything feels like an attack because it challenges my ego, ubudoda, you know, nestima, you know, and yeah, I think the biggest part of the work that needs to be done around that is collectively as a society is to dismantle the expectations on men so that men are free to be softer, you know, because my mom, I don't know if this is an expression, but she would say, if you take two sticks, one that is wet and one that is dry, when you try bend them, the dry one will break, and the wet one has
Bend. Elasticity.
yeah, elasticity. Hey, that English word. So I think as a society, we need to create room for men to be vulnerable, to be soft, and we need to create room for them to make mistakes. You know,
make
and
mistakes.
it's a double-edged sword because sometimes the way we are brought up and our makeup, you know, as men, when we are given that platform, sometimes we take advantage. You know, but I would rather we invest in trying to help more men be softer than worry about the advantage that might be taken. It's a risky thing.
Yeah.
I know as a man in my past and sometimes in my present, when I'm given room to do better for myself and others, my reaction is not always positive. But when I recognize my flaws, I'm able to step back and learn from that and apologize or, you know, take accountability.
And I think I found power in softness. As men, if we are taught to be soft, we will have a better place for everyone. Because when we want to be the hetero is defined as a strong man who's going to change your tire and who can change lights in the house. Not all men can do that.
Especially
You
you.
know, yeah, I don't want Justice likes fixing cars. I don't want that. I want new cars. You know, yeah.
Please.
I don't want that stuff.
Slay queen.
Yeah. And so Justice says a project car. This is a macho thing. You know, this car, it climbs on top of it. There's things there. It's an amazing car. It looks great when we're driving in it, but it's a scrap for me. I don't want this thing. And there's many men who don't like that side of life. It doesn't mean you're less of a man. And as women, if we show up for your man the right way, where he's not the guy who will come and change your tire, but he's a guy who can call and get your tire changed. It's done, you know? And you know, I don't want to get dirty. Doesn't make me less of a man, you know?
True.
And as the same as we are very different, you know? He likes fixing things in his house and like gardening and
And
whatever.
your house.
And my house. He'll come there and it's like, it's like, Justice, I have a gardener, bro. It's like, no, relax, you know? And that just shows that there's so many differences in people. Men are humans too.
Yeah.
And there's women who love cars, who will jump on, who will go hiking, who will sleep in tents, which is very hectic stuff for me.
For you.
I don't want that. You know, I don't want that stuff. And so I think a better world is a world that is pro kindness
Yeah.
and pro
And mindful.
mindfulness. Yes.
Yeah.
When you are present, you are able to see beyond the aesthetic. You know, okay, Justice likes, he dresses well and like me, but this guy can get his hands dirty. We the same. I don't want to get my hands dirty. And my partner can show up the right way for me. She can go, babe, my car broke down and whatever. I'll say, give me a second, hold it. Justice. Let's go. Yeah. You know?
So,
You really
mean-
did offer a solution, though.
Yeah, always.
yeah,
Always.
I've got a point to add.
Yes.
I've got a point to add. Our situation is unique because we have each other. Some people are just singular. They don't have a justice. But anyway, so when we speak of balance, Patwane and I have a very beautiful godson. And he's turning 16 in December. And he's our closest friend. And we are planning with him to go camping. And we want to do a road trip and go to the bush. So I said, yeah, we must go to the bush. We must do this and this. We'll drive in my scrap car because it's cool, you know. Then whilst we were negotiating that, Patwan said, Ash, okay, I'm going to look for the place because I don't want to be in a rubbish tent. So I'll get the glamping or
Yeah.
whatever.
I don't want snakes. I don't want to see a snake.
Then anyway, in that little journey with our godson, we find balance. And I think even in a relationship, you can find balance. In life, you can find balance.
Because he can't cook.
Yes.
You know, and it's different strengths.
Yeah.
He wants to teach. He wants me to teach him how to cook.
Yeah.
And
You don't want him
I
to
don't
teach
want
you
that
how
stuff
to.
he does. But sorry to cut you off.
No, for
different
sure.
strengths for
Yeah.
men.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's balance in life, in business, in friendship. Let's lean into our strengths. Let's
Yes.
not come with expectations because we are human first,
Yeah.
then all the other.
I just want to know, I've never had ululating for any conversations I had with women. What is that about? But anyway, thank you, Justice and Fatuani,
Thank you.
for your openness,
Thank you.
for the work that you are doing on yourselves,
Thank you.
for the work that you are doing with other men, for the authentic way in which you approach your own lives and the courage that you show in pursuing the life of your dreams. And I want to thank the audience. There was a lot of like, it was the first time I heard so much talking whilst we were on the panel, but I realized it was because of the insights. Everyone was trying to just talk to the next person and say, oh my gosh, that's me. I appreciate in this moment how you were able to hold space for some of my favorite people.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to the next session.
Thank you.